Poverty isn't just about having less money. It's about being trapped in patterns that guarantee you'll stay broke. And most people caught in these cycles have no idea they're even stuck. My name is Nick, and what I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you understand financial struggle, because the habits keeping people poor aren't what you think they are. Research from Princeton and Harvard revealed something shocking. When people face financial stress, their IQ effectively drops by 13 points. That's the difference between average and borderline impaired cognitive function. This isn't about being lazy or making bad choices. Your brain literally can't function properly when you're worried about money. The mental bandwidth required to juggle bills, manage debt, and survive day to day consumes the same cognitive resources you need for planning, problem solving, and making smart long-term decisions. Scientists call this the scarcity mindset. When you're constantly worried about having enough, your brain enters tunnel vision mode. You become hyper-focused on immediate survival at the expense of everything else. Can you pay rent this month? Will the electricity get shut off? How are you going to afford groceries? These aren't abstract concerns. They're consuming every bit of mental energy you have, leaving nothing left for the kind of strategic thinking that actually builds wealth. This creates a vicious cycle. Financial stress impairs your decision-making, which leads to worse financial outcomes, which creates more stress, which further damages your ability to think clearly. You're not stuck because you're irresponsible. You're stuck because poverty itself is sabotaging your brain's ability to escape it. Let's start with the most obvious habit that keeps people trapped. Living beyond your means sounds simple to avoid, right? Just spend less than you earn. Except 53% of people report increased financial stress over the past year, and 61% identify money as their primary life stressor. Something deeper is happening here. Social media has weaponized our natural desire for status. You see friends posting vacation photos, showing off new cars, wearing expensive clothes. The psychological pressure to keep up is overwhelming. People are taking out loans to look successful while drowning in debt behind the scenes. If you're earning $50,000 but living like you make $200,000, poverty isn't just likely. It's mathematically guaranteed. The twist: higher earners often struggle just as much as lower earners. Wealth isn't determined by how much you make. It's determined by how much you keep. A person earning $200,000 who spends $190,000 is in worse financial shape than someone earning $60,000 who spends $40,000. Lifestyle inflation destroys wealth faster than almost anything else, and most people don't even realize it's happening to them. Then there's the habit nobody wants to admit: not paying yourself first. We religiously pay our mortgage, car payment, phone bill, and subscription services. But saving money, that gets pushed to the bottom of the priority list. We tell ourselves we'll save what's left over at the end of the month, except there's never anything left over. This isn't an accident. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how wealth actually gets built. Financial security doesn't come from earning more. It comes from consistently setting aside money before you have a chance to spend it. Automate transfers to savings the day your paycheck hits. Treat it like a bill you can't skip. Because the truth is, you're either paying your future self or you're paying everyone else. There's no middle ground. Impulse buying has become an epidemic in the digital age. One click and that thing you suddenly decided you need is on its way to your door. These purchases seem harmless individually. $20 here, $50 there. But they accumulate into thousands annually, completely derailing any chance of building savings or investments. Recent survey data revealed something fascinating. Joy has become the leading driver of consumer spending at 38%, outranking convenience and security. 41% of people say they feel justified spending on things that make them happy, and 77% admit they struggle to curb social spending, like dining out and events. We're not buying things because we need them. We're buying emotional relief from the stress of our financial situation, which only makes that situation worse. The 48-hour rule can break this cycle. When you see something you want, wait 2 full days before purchasing. If you still want it after 48 hours and it genuinely fits your budget, go ahead. Most of the time, you'll discover the urge has completely disappeared. That desire wasn't real need. It was emotional impulse masquerading as necessity. Credit cards compound all of these problems exponentially. Making only minimum payments transforms manageable debt into a financial anchor that drags you under for years. Credit card interest averages nearly 20% as of this year. Let that sink in. You're paying a fifth of your balance annually just for the privilege of owing money. But what really traps people isn't just carrying balances. It's how credit cards enable living beyond your means, without feeling the immediate pain. You swipe the card, the transaction goes through, and your brain doesn't register the same pain it would if you handed over physical cash. This psychological disconnect is precisely why credit card companies love this system. You spend more when you don't feel the money leaving your hands. Studies show people spend up to 100% more when using credit cards versus cash for the same purchases. 21% of Americans named growing credit card debt as their biggest financial regret last year. Yet most continue making minimum payments while interest compounds monthly, turning a $5,000 balance into a decade-long financial prison sentence. But credit cards aren't the only trap designed to keep people broke. Payday loans represent financial predation at its absolute worst. These loans target vulnerable communities with deliberately deceptive terms. 75% of payday loan borrowers earn less than $50,000 annually. The loans are concentrated in low-income neighborhoods, where desperation makes people easier targets. The mechanics are designed to trap you. Borrow $500. Pay $15 to $20 interest per $100 borrowed. Sounds manageable until you calculate the annual percentage rate. Between 360% and 400%. Compare that to the average credit card rate of roughly 17%, and you realize the scale of exploitation happening here. The median payday loan borrower spends 199 days per year in debt, more than half the year stuck in a cycle they can't escape. Over 50% of borrowers default, which triggers collections, court actions, and bank account seizures. 41% need cash infusions from friends, family, or selling possessions just to pay off these loans. This creates ripple effects that damage relationships and eliminate whatever financial stability someone might have been clinging to. Why do people fall for this? Because when you're broke, you can't think clearly about money. Research demonstrates that financial stress reduces cognitive capacity by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. Poverty literally makes you less capable of making rational decisions. Scarcity creates what psychologists call tunneling. When you're focused on immediate survival, your brain has less bandwidth for long-term planning. This narrow mindset keeps you trapped. You can only think about next week's rent, not next year's financial position. Every decision becomes about feasibility instead of desirability. Can I afford this right now? Not, will this help me build wealth over time? The mental load of managing poverty consumes the exact cognitive resources you'd need to escape poverty. Then there's the lottery ticket trap. People in the poorest zip codes spend nearly 5% of their income on lottery tickets. That's $600 annually for someone already struggling to pay bills. Those in the wealthiest zip codes spend 0.15% of their income on tickets. The desperate are funding a system designed to keep them desperate. 1 in 5 Americans believe the lottery is their only path to significant savings. Read that again. 20% of the population thinks their best financial strategy is gambling on odds worse than getting struck by lightning. This isn't stupidity. It's what happens when systemic poverty eliminates every other visible path to financial security. People use money meant for food and rent to buy lottery tickets. Not money from entertainment budgets. Money from survival budgets. The psychological driver is the perception of a level playing field. Rich or poor, everyone has the same chance of winning. Except the rich aren't playing because they have actual wealth-building strategies available to them. These patterns persist across generations. Growing up poor shapes your relationship with money in ways that don't disappear when your income increases. Childhood financial trauma influences decision-making, stress responses, and emotional regulation into adulthood. You learn to anticipate loss, expect instability, and make choices based on scarcity, even when scarcity no longer defines your situation. Approximately 65% of Americans report experiencing financial trauma. This gets triggered not just by personal history, but by economic forces beyond individual control. Inflation, wage stagnation, rising costs. The system creates trauma, then blames individuals for the symptoms of that trauma. Here's what nobody wants to acknowledge. For people facing extreme poverty or spending more than 30% of income on housing, traditional financial advice is useless. You can't budget your way out of poverty when every dollar is already spoken for before you earn it. Setting aside money for investments sounds absurd when doing so means risking eviction. Individual willpower cannot overcome systemic barriers. As long as wages stagnate while costs skyrocket, as long as predatory lenders target vulnerable communities, as long as wealth inequality expands, poor people will remain susceptible to schemes designed to extract what little they have. The habits that keep people poor aren't moral failures. They're rational responses to irrational circumstances. Cognitive adaptations to environments where traditional financial wisdom doesn't apply. Until we address the structural conditions creating poverty, telling people to just make better choices is like telling someone drowning to just swim harder. Your financial situation reflects the rules you're playing by. And for millions of people, those rules were rigged long before they were born. Understanding these patterns doesn't make them easier to break, but it does strip away the shame that keeps people silent. These aren't character flaws. They're survival mechanisms in a system designed to keep wealth concentrated at the top. The first step toward change isn't willpower. It's recognizing that the game itself needs different rules. If this is resonating with you, subscribe to the channel. We go deeper into the psychology and strategy behind building real financial freedom,